Hi everyone, we are group number 3 and we will be talking about the employee well-being and mental health from compliance to strategic priority in human resource management, and we will be talking about an HR seminar at Qantas. My name is Namgyom and I will be doing the introduction and the issues, the full description of the issues including the brief history and its type and forms. So the brief history of the issue. So the perception of employee well-being in a large corporation like Qantas before the 2000s was indeed dominated by a focus on safe workplace safety, physical health, and compliance with the regulatory obligations. So this approach was characteristics of the era and largely driven by the operational necessity of a high-risk industry like aviation, as well as evolving occupational health and safety legislation. So the 2000s marked a significant, though still early, step in the evolution of corporate well-being by introducing and normalizing employee assistance programs, EAP, and the assessment that this approach was still largely reactive is highly accurate and reflects the general trend in Australian and global corporate mental health strategy at that time. So the 2010s saw a move beyond EAPs being a pure welfare and risk management tool. This decade was characterized by corporations, including major Australian companies like Qantas, beginning to recognize a direct link between employee well-being and business performance. For example, productivity, absenteeism, and staff turnover. And the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath, that's post 2020, it forced a rapid and fundamental reframe of employee well-being. It became strategic, top-level priority and crucially a legal compliance issue under Australian work health and safety law. So the description of the issue. So the organization treat the well-being and mental health of the employee as a compliance or an legal obligation. So the focus remains on meeting mental health and safety standards rather than long-term employee well-being. And because of that, the rising stress, burnout, and disengagement highlight the need for a more strategic approach. The HR must move beyond compliance to embed well-being and mental health as a strategic priority, aligning it with number one, the leadership and culture. So the well-being and health are overseen at the executive level. The CEO is a member of the Safety, Health, Environment and Security Committee, also known as JES. So the group promotes just culture, encouraging employees to report safety and security concerns without the fear of unfair treatment, a foundation element of psychological safety. So Qantas's core behavior like being respectful and resilient are embedded in all aspects of the employee life cycle, from performance review to onboarding. So number two, job design and hazard management. It adheres to the modern principle of fixing the work, not the worker. This means focusing on the job design to ensure employees have clarity on their roles, reasonable workloads, and control over their work. So, this approach is critical for managing psychosocial hazards like high job demands or poor change management, as mandated by the modern work health and safety laws in Australia, where there's psychological health on par with the physical safety. So essentially, Qantas views a psychologically safe and inclusive workplace as the essential foundation for a resilient and high performing workforce. And lastly, the performance and reward system. So, in essence, the performance system focuses not just on what is achieved but how it is achieved. Using the core behavior, including respect and resilience, to link day-to-day conduct to formal feedback and rewards. Why it matters is because it directly impacts the organizational result. So, mental health directly impacts productivity, retention, and organizational culture. This means that the well being of the employee is not merely a nice to have, but a critical factor in a company's success. So, it's a strategic business imperative, and there is a growing need for HR to move beyond compliance to embed well being and mental health as a strategic priority. This reframing, especially post 2020, shows the global trends are making holistic well being as a major focus. And the need for a strategic shift is highlighted by the fact that many organizations currently treat well being and mental health merely as a compliance or legal obligation. This focus on meeting minimum health and safety standards rather than long-term employees' well-being, which has led to rising stress, burnout, and disengagement. So the types or forms of disruption. So firstly, the technological disruption. So the digital tool enables remote work, but also increases screen fatigue, isolation, and blurred work-life boundaries. And secondly, workplace culture shift. So the movement towards psychological safety, inclusion, and empathy-based leadership. So, thirdly, policy and legal change. So, stronger the workplace mental health frameworks and govern regulations on psychosocial risk. That is, example, the Australia's WHS Code of Practice. And fourthly, social expectations. So, employees now expect mental health support, flexibility, and purpose driven workplaces. And lastly, organizational transformation. Shift from HR compliance to strategic well being integration across leadership, performance management, and culture. Lastly, linking well being to strategic human resource management. So, Qantas has faced major disruption since COVID era, so mass layoffs, staff shortages, and reputational challenges. These events has increased to employee stress, burnout, and declining morale. So historically, well-being was treated as a compliance issue focused mainly on safety and EAP services. So the recent initiatives show a strategic shift towards embedding well-being into HR and leadership. So mental health first aid training for leaders, programs promoting psychological safety and employee engagement, and stronger focus on workplace culture and trust rebuilding. So, Qantas illustrates how organizational disruption can drive a move from compliance to strategic well-being management, aligning employee health with business recovery and performance.
Hello everyone. I will be presenting on key findings and current trends related to workplace mental health and well-being in Australia, with a particular focus on the aviation industry. Let's begin with some key statistics. Poor mental health is costing Australian business approximately $39 billion each year in lost productivity. This includes costs linked to absenteeism, presenteeism, and reduced performance. Research shows that employees with mental health challenges can lose up to working 69 working days annually due to stress, burnout, or psychological illness. And what's even more concerning is that 85% of employees report experiencing burnout at some stage, with the highest rates among younger workers aged 18 to 34. This demonstrates that mental health issues are no longer isolated to a few individuals. They are systematic and have become major workplace concern across the industry. Now moving on, let's look at the growing issues of psychological injury claims. In New South Wales, psychological injury claims have increased by 30% within just 4 years, which has outpaced the rate of psychological injury claims. This claim also tend to involve longer recovery period, which means employees take more time off work compared to those with physical injuries. Younger generations, especially Generation Z and millennials, are reshaping workplace expectations. They are not just looking for salaries and promotions, but they want stronger mental health support systems such as access to counseling services, well-being apps, and managers trained in mental health conversation. Also, studies have shown that these age groups record lower overall work health scores, reflecting higher stress and low engagement levels. Now, let's discuss the major trends influencing how organizations respond to mental health challenges. We are witnessing a shift from compliance-based well-being, where organizations only meet legal requirements, to a strategic integration approach where well-being is tied directly to productivity, retention, and employee branding. This means that the organization now recognizes that a healthy workplace isn't just an ethical goal, it's a business advantage. Another key trend is the focus on psychological hazards, including high job demands, low control, poor change management, and burnout. These are now central issues in health and safety regulations. The increase in mental health related claims and extended absences is also placing significant financial and operational strain to the business. In the aviation sector, the problem is particularly serious. Pilots, cabin crews, and ground staff face high stress level due to irregular hours, fatigues, and safety critical regulations. All of this which increases the risk of burnout and psychological distress. This well-being wheel from the Flight Safety Foundation 2020 is an excellent framework for aviation professionals, reminding them to maintain balance across emotional, social, and physical and occupational well-being. The business implications of mental health are profound. Firstly, there's presentism, where employees are physically at work but mentally unwell and less productive. Then there's absenteeism, which reduces the overall operational capacity, particularly critical in safety-sensitive industries like aviation. The direct cost includes workers' compensation, healthcare expenses, and cost of replacement and recruitment. The direct costs are often even higher, which is lost productivity, reputational risks, and declining employee engagement and retention. In aviation, poor mental health can also compromise safety performance, as even the small lapses in concentration can have serious consequences. And this highlights the urgent need for aviation organizations to prioritize psychological well-being as part of their core safety culture and not just an optional extra. Finally, it's important to understand the legal framework that governs workplace mental health in Australia. Under the Work Health and Safety Act 2022, employers have a duty to manage psychological hazards and provide a safe working environment. The Code of Practice issued by Safe Work Australia outlines practical steps for the organisations to take, such as identifying, assessing, and controlling the risks related to workload, bullying, or poor organizational change processes. The Fair Work Act 2009 further protects workers through provision for leave entitlements, anti-discrimination, and flexible work arrangements. Additionally, disability discrimination laws require employers to make a reasonable adjustment for employees experiencing mental health conditions. And non-compliance can result in legal penalties, fines, or serious reputational damages. So it's not only a moral or social obligation, but also a legal requirement to prioritize employees' mental health. Overall, the data clearly shows that workplace mental health is no longer a side issue. It's central to organizational performance and sustainability. By doing so, organizations can build not only a healthier and safe workplace, but also a more resilient, productive, and trusted business. Thank you.
Now I'll be presenting on how Qantas Airways integrates corporate social responsibility along with culture and ethical consideration into its human resource management practice, and focuses on how Qantas connects employee well-being, workplace culture, and ethical responsibility to create a people-centric and sustainable organization. Corporate social responsibility and employee well-being. CSR sits at the heart of the Qantas strategy. The airline CSR framework revolves around three main pillars, that is safety, sustainability, and people care. Under the caring for our people pillar, Qantas recognizes that employee well-being is directly tied to the business performance, especially after the challenges brought by COVID-19. Well-being isn't treated as a compliance issue anymore, it's seen as a strategic investment in human capital. Initiatives such as Employee Assistance Program, Resilience and Well-being Hubs, and the Flexible Work Arrangement all reflects Qantas' long-term commitment to supporting staff both physically and mentally. Moreover, the research also supports the shift, noting that well-being initiatives enhance engagement, retention, and reputation, and all are crucial factors in a people-driven industry like aviation. Qantas CSR approach truly comes into life through its caring for our people strategy. This initiative supports employees' physical and psychological well-being while linking directly to the company's sustainable goals. What's powerful about this approach is how it builds stakeholder trust. Employees, customers, and investors see Qantas acting consistently with its value. It also demonstrates that the company views employee not just as a workforce but as a key stakeholder in achieving long-term success. In other words, taking care of the people isn't just the right thing to do ethically, it is also a smart business decision that aligns with Qantas' core value and sustainability commitment. Coming to cultural issues in employee well-being, Qantas employs over 20,000 staff from diverse nationalities and cultural backgrounds. While this diversity is one of the company's strengths, it also brings challenges, especially because the attitude towards mental health differs across cultures. For example, employees from collectivist culture like Asian society may see emotional distress as a weakness and avoid seeking help, while those from individualistic cultures such as Australian or the US tend to be more open about mental health. So to address this, Qantas ensures cultural sensitivity through culturally competent counseling, multilingual well-being materials like Are You OK campaign, and inclusive leadership training. These initiatives foster psychological safety, where employees feel safe to speak up, an essential factor in aviation where open communication directly supports safety and the well-being. Ethical issue in employee well-being. Qantas also faces some important ethical responsibility when it comes to employee well-being. Under the Work Health and Safety Act of 2011, the company must protect both the physical and mental health of its staff. It means making sure that workload, roster, and the management practice do not cause unnecessary stress or burnouts. Qantas also need to protect confidentiality when collecting well-being data and ensure that all employees, including ground staff and flight crews, have fair access to support services. Most importantly, the company well-being program must be genuine and for the long term, not just for the show what guest calls avoiding well-being washing. Qantas bring together CSR, cultural awareness, and ethics to make employee well-being a key part of its HR strategy. The company understands that a healthy and inclusive workforce leads to better safety, service quality, and long-term success. To strengthen this approach, Qantas is encouraging to include well-being metrics in its sustainability reports and linking well-being outcome to its leadership performance. Managers should also be trained and held accountable for supporting staff well-being. As noted by some of the researchers, when organizations connect CSR and ethics in this way, they build trust, engagement, and retention, helping Qantas position itself as the truly responsible and people-based airline. To strengthen its well-being strategy, Qantas HR leaders can focus on 4 key actions. Firstly, strengthen cross-culture well-being programs so that employees from all the backgrounds feel supported. Secondly, linking well-being outcome to leadership performance metric. This makes leaders directly accountable for their team's well-being, and increasing transparency by regularly reporting well-being data and outcomes to staff, which help build trust. And finally, continue embedding well-being into CSR and business strategy, ensuring it remains a long-term commitment rather than a short-term initiative. So these steps will help Qantas create a culture of care, responsibility, and inclusion across the organization.
Hello, my name is Tandin and I'll be presenting on the economic impact of employee well-being and mental health. Employee well-being and mental health are key factors that influence how individuals perform and organizations function. Mental health problems have a substantial financial impact, including presenteeism and absenteeism-related productivity losses that have an adverse effect on business profits. However, organizations that actively invest in employee well-being tend to experience the opposite effect. Well-being programs can increase engagement, retention, and enhance overall productivity, which ultimately leads to greater profitability and promotes long-term organizational success. Now that we understand the economic consequences, let's look at some strategies HR can use to integrate mental health support into workplace practices. Integrating mental health into HR practices requires a comprehensive approach that prioritizes employee well-being at all levels. HR can embed mental health programs into core policies and provide manager training to support employees effectively. Establishing employee support systems such as employee assistance program, mental health days, and flexible work arrangements encourages a healthier work-life balance. Promoting awareness through open discussion, stress management workshops, and resilience training helps reduce stigma and create a supportive workplace culture where employees feel valued, understood, and motivated to perform at their best. Next, I will share a few examples that show the real economic impact of mental health initiatives in organizations. The observable advantages of giving employee mental health top priority are illustrated by real-world examples. Following the implementation of mental health program, American Express report a 10% decrease in absenteeism and a 15% increase in employee engagement after introducing well-being programs, strengthening company culture and productivity. Similarly, Johnson & Johnson implemented mental health support programs that increased employee satisfaction and retention, resulting in a 25% decrease in turnover. According to Deloitte, every dollar invested in employee well-being can generate a return of $4.70 through increased productivity and reduced healthcare costs. These examples highlight that supporting mental health is both a moral and financial advantage for businesses. Finally, let's move to the last part, which looks at the implications for HR practice moving forward. In the future, HR must strategically integrate mental health as a core component of its overall strategy, ensuring it becomes a part of the organizational culture. Aligning mental health initiatives with the company's mission and values helps create a cohesive approach that supports broader business objectives. HR should also implement clear metrics and employee surveys to measure the success of these initiatives, tracking productivity, absenteeism, and engagement levels. Additionally, leadership training is crucial to equip managers with the skills to engage in mental health conversations and foster psychological safety, encouraging employees to speak openly about their well-being. That's all from my side. My friend will continue with the next part. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonam Ladun and my student ID is 11717734. I will be presenting the recommendation and the conclusion part of our group presentation. Now let's move on to our recommendation for Qantas HR leaders. Our first recommendation is strategic integration. Qantas should embed employee well-being KPIs directly into both HR and business plan. Well-being initiative should not be treated as optional adds-on, but as an essential drivers of performance and safety. This program should align closely with Qantas' values, safety culture, and customer service goals. Our second recommendation focuses on culture and leadership. Leaders and managers play a key role in shaping well-being outcome. We recommend comprehensive mental health awareness and leadership training, enabling managers to recognize early signs of stress and support their team through open, empathetic conversation. Creating psychological safety should be leadership priority. A third recommendation is data-driven evaluation, and it's essential. Regular employee surveys and analytical tools can track engagement, absenteeism, and turnover. By measuring progress, Qantas can continuously improve its well-being programs and ensure accountability across departments. Our fourth recommendations, we recommend aligning CSR and ethics. Employee well-being should be linked to Qantas' corporate social responsibility initiatives. This means integrating wellness program with community outreach, diversity, and inclusion strategies, strengthening the company ethical and social reputation. Our fifth recommendation is system of support. System of support should be expanded. This includes enhancing employee assistance program, launching well-being apps, and creating peer support networks, especially for high-stress aviation roles. Tailored intervention can help staff manage irregular hours and work pressure more effectively. Our next recommendation focuses on they should focus on younger workers. Gen Zs and millennials expect flexible work options and easy access to mental health resources. Qantas should continue developing digital well-being tools and hybrid work policies to attract and retain young talents. And finally, we ensure legal and ethical compliance. HR must upload the Work Health and Safety Act 2022 and Fair Work obligations by regularly reviewing psychological hazards management. Compliance not only prevents legal risks but also reinforces Qantas' image as a responsible employer. So lastly, to conclude our presentation, in conclusion, the success of Qantas and any organization depends on the well-being and mental health of its people. The evidence is clear. Poor mental health costs Australian business nearly $39 billion annually, while effective well-being progress program generated up to $4.70 in return of every dollar invested. Companies like American Express and Johnson & Johnson have demonstrated that strategic well-being leads to lower absenteeism, higher engagement, and stronger organizational culture. For contrast, where employees work in high-stress safety critical roles, investing in well-being is not just an HR initiative, it's a business imperative. By integrating well-being into its HR strategy, leadership culture, and CSR commitments, Qantas can rebuild trust, enhance performance, and secure long-term sustainability. Ultimately, a proactive well-being culture will not only meet compliance requirements but also position Qantas as a truly people-centered, high-performance organization. Thank you.